So welcome back to the chemistry class 11 science. I'm going to start the next chapter, that is chapter 7, chemical and ionic equilibrium, or simply the chapter is called equilibrium. Today is day 1. It is the morning class and it is 30th of September 2021. It is a Thursday. I got one more class with you all in the afternoon. So you can make use of the time also to complete this chapter. So now, what is equilibrium? I would like to ask you, what do you mean by equilibrium? If the question is asked to you, what in very, very simple language, what do you mean by equilibrium? How will you define? How will you explain? Anybody? What is
Sir, a state of balance.
very good, very good, wonderful. Equilibrium. Equilibrium means a state of balance. In simple language, according to a layman, if you go and talk to a layman and ask him or her about equilibrium, that person is going to talk about a state of balance. Balance. The most stable position. The most stable position. Now, in class 10 in physics, you must have learned about a scale, a pivoted in this manner. The length, this one is longer, this one is shorter. So what will happen? This will go down. It will not attain equilibrium. But if you shift the fulcrum right exactly in the center, then this this meter scale gets balanced, and we can experience a condition which is called equilibrium, which can also be told to be a state of physical equilibrium. So in simple language, equilibrium, it is a state, over here we can say it is a state of balance, maximum stability. Now we know that whenever a chemical reaction happens, it takes place, it involves a conversion, spontaneous conversion of reactants. If I bring reactants A plus B, this reactants A plus B, they react with each other spontaneously and they get converted into the products C plus D. Okay. Now, if I carry out such a reaction in a closed container, it is possible that the products C and D which are formed, they may react with each other and give back A and B, which are the reactants. So the rate of the forward reaction, the rate of the forward reaction and rate of the backward reaction comes into question over here. So a time comes when A and B are reacting to form C and D. Also at the same time, C and D are reacting with each other to form A and B. That means there is a balance. There is a balance between the reactants, formation of the reactants, what do you call, reaction of the reactants and the formation of the products. So this state, it is called equilibrium. Now we know a large number of reactions behave accordingly and go to almost completion, but we are not interested in that. However, there are many reactions which do not go to completion at all when they are carried out in closed vessels. In the case of such chemical reactions, the reaction mixture, remember the reaction mixture contains both the reactants as well as the products. So we can talk over here saying that the two processes, the forward reaction and the backward reaction, they occur simultaneously, and a state is reached when the concentration of all the reactants and all the products, it is same. When I say concentration, moles per liter, okay, or we can talk about grams per liter, or molarity, or molality, okay, or normality, concentration. So if the concentration of all the reactants or the products, if it becomes same, then we can talk about a state which has been achieved, which is called a state of equilibrium, or more precisely, the state of chemical equilibrium, by the symbol, which is a reversible arrow in this chapter. So that was an introduction to this chapter, the meaning of the word equilibrium. Now, Look at the next slide over here. We'll be talking about in this chapter chemical equilibrium with respect to reversible reactions, mostly reversible reactions. So first understand what is a reversible reaction. So remember a chemical reaction where in which the products can react to reform the reactants. That's a reversible reaction. So here if the products are C and D, if the products are reacting again with each other to give back the reactants, then such a reaction comes under the category of reversible reactions. There are plenty of irreversible reactions. There are plenty of reversible reactions as well. But here we are interested mostly in reversible reactions. Now, under this chemical equilibrium, when when the rate of the forward reaction, when the rate of the forward reaction equals the rate of the reverse reaction, means backward reaction, and the concentration of the products and the reactants there remains constant, okay, or it is unchanged, then in such a situation we call this sort of reactions to be a state of chemical equilibrium. Okay, so remember it is very important for all of us to put an arrow, a reversible arrow, whenever you represent a chemical reaction which is reversible and in a state of chemical equilibrium. So here you must remember the rate of the forward reaction is equal to rate of the backward reaction. Then only it is a situation of chemical equilibrium. Now, uh, you know, if I carry out certain reactions, like say if I take hydrogen gas, hydrogen gas and iodine vapor, hydrogen gas and iodine vapor, and allow the reaction of these two molecules at around 700 Kelvin in a closed container. It's a closed container, that then I will get hydrogen iodide. It's a gas as well. So it is a reversible reaction. Okay. Now in such a reaction, when equilibrium has been attained, the rate of the forward reaction is equal to the rate of the backward reaction. That is important to understand over here. Now let us move to the next slide over here. Something which is called physical equilibrium. In a state of physical equilibrium, if the opposing forces involve only physical changes, there is no chemical changes, then the equilibrium is physical in nature. Some examples are here, different types. First one is solid liquid equilibrium. When does solid liquid equilibrium happen? Whenever there is melting happening, whenever there is a melting point involved. So when you take ice, solid ice, okay, and allow it to melt, it becomes liquid water. So ice and water, it's in a state of solid equilibrium. One example of physical equilibrium. Now here the rate of the melting of ice is equal to rate of freezing of water. So that's how we can call it to be a state of solid liquid equilibrium, which comes under the category of physical equilibrium. Now moving, note that in the case of solid liquid equilibrium, we have to remember there will be a melting point for the solid to convert into the liquid, melting point. And being students of class 11, I am 100% sure you should know, or you already know, what is the meaning of melting point. Melting point is what? The temperature at which melting occurs. That means the solid converts into the liquid. Okay. Now the reverse of melting becomes freezing point. Okay. So here at this particular temperature or melting point, both is happening. The liquid is freezing also and the solid is melting also. Then it is called a state of solid liquid equilibrium. If we look at the next one, that is liquid vapor equilibrium, where I can talk about liquid water at 100 degrees Celsius. It is converting into water vapor. So at that time, you can say that the rate of evaporation it is equal to rate of condensation. So remember over here, evaporation to become water vapor and condensation for the water vapor to become liquid. Okay, so that was liquid vapor equilibrium, which comes under physical equilibrium. Note that here only physical changes are happening, not chemical changes. So we are talking about physical equilibrium. The next type, it is called solid vapor equilibrium for solids which undergo sublimation. So if I take camphor balls or naphthalene balls, here I've given an example of camphor, solid camphor balls at a particular temperature. We can talk about its sublimation temperature. It gets converted to camphor gas molecules. Okay, so here for this solid vapor equilibrium, the rate of sublimation of solid is equal to rate of condensation of vapor. So I hope you remember what is the meaning of sublimation. What is the meaning of sublimation? Can you tell me? Any one of you? Ankit, are you there? What is
So
sublimation?
direct change from liquid solid to
Direct,
gas.
yes, direct conversion of a solid to its vapor or the conversion of the vapor to its solid. That is sublimation. Either way. Okay. So this was a good example about physical equilibrium to all of you. Now let me explain you one important term before I proceed further in this chapter, and that important term, it is called Gibbs free energy. It is called Gibbs free energy. This Gibbs free energy, this word will be discussed in detail in the chapter thermodynamics, chemical thermodynamics. But since I am not doing the chapter chemical thermodynamics just now, so I felt it wise from my side to explain you the meaning of this word Gibbs free energy. Now, what is Gibbs free energy? Gibbs free energy is the energy that is available to do useful work. So remember this. Gibbs free energy is the energy that is available to do some useful work. And remember, a reaction will spontaneously occur if the Gibbs free energy is the it is less than zero. That is, if the change in Gibbs free energy is less than zero, the reaction will occur. The reaction will occur. Okay, that is an it is an exo, exergonic reaction. Okay, you can talk about exothermic reaction. If the Gibbs free energy change it is greater than zero, the reaction will not occur. It will not occur at all. If the change in Gibbs free energy, if it is equal to zero, if it is equal to zero at that temperature 273 Kelvin, at 273 Kelvin, that is 0 degrees Celsius, then the reaction is at equilibrium. The reaction is at equilibrium. So this is what I want you all to keep in your mind. So for a chemical process, for a chemical reaction to be at equilibrium, the change in Gibbs free energy must be equal to what? It must be equal to zero at 273 Kelvin or 0 degrees Celsius. Let me go a little bit more in detail with regard to this formula which you see on the screen over there. Delta G naught, delta G naught. This zero means not, NOT not. Delta G naught, change in Gibbs free energy is equal to delta H naught, that is change in enthalpy minus T delta S. This delta S naught means entropy. Entropy. This capital T means temperature at which the reaction is happening. Okay. So I request you all to please get used to this formula. Delta G naught is equal to delta H naught minus T delta S naught. This delta G naught means the energy that is available to do useful work. We are concerned with the useful work that is done. I might be able to lift a 5 gram solid very easily. But while lifting it, I might apply much more energy than which is actually required. But whatever energy that is required to lift that 5 gram of weight by myself, by my system, that is called Gibbs free energy, which is the useful energy available to do work. Okay. Now, This delta H means enthalpy change, the heat which is involved, minus the temperature at which the reaction is happening, and this is delta S means entropy. Entropy means the degree of disorder. Entropy means what? The degree of disorder or randomness in a system. Entropy. Entropy means degree. Degree of disorder or randomness in a system. So remember this word. Entropy means degree of disorder or randomness in a system. Please remember, the entropy of the universe is increasing. It is not decreasing, because the disorder is increasing as the time is passing by. Today there is a disorder. Tomorrow the disorder is going to be more and more bad. When you wake up in the morning and you arrange your room, everything is arranged properly, everything is tip top, up to the mark. And as the day goes by, slowly you start using the things in the room. So everything is slowly getting disorder, and by the end of the day, before you go to bed, you find that everything is in disorder. So, in a similar way, the universe also, the system also, the entropy of the system of the universe is always increasing. So, based on this formula, I want you to remember just one thing over here, the meaning of Gibbs free energy and these three relation over here. This three relation. If delta G is less than 0, the reaction occurs spontaneously. If the value of delta G is greater than 0, the reaction does not occur spontaneously. If the value of delta G is equal to 0, then the reaction is supposed to be in a state of equilibrium. So this is what I want you all to remember before proceeding any further in this chapter. Now moving further over here, I would like to explain you this equilibrium, which is classified in two parts over here. Have a look very carefully in a very simple schematic diagram. Equilibrium, it is basically divided into physical equilibrium, which I've explained you, ice becoming water, water becoming water vapor, okay, or camphor solid becoming camphor vapor. Okay, these all examples of physical equilibrium. One example is here, that is under physical equilibrium we have got this change. And the other classification of equilibrium, it is called chemical equilibrium, where we have two types. One is molecular equilibrium. One example is here, phosphorus pentachloride, okay, dissociating to give phosphorus trichloride and chlorine. At the same time, when equilibrium has been reached, that means when delta G for this reaction has been equal to 0, that time the trichloride, the phosphorus trichloride is reacting with the chlorine to give back phosphorus pentachloride. So which means the rate of the forward reaction is equal to rate of the backward reaction. Then it is in a state of molecular equilibrium. But if you talk about ionic equilibrium over here, where ions are involved, acetic acid, which is a weak electrolyte, it dissociates partially to give H plus ions and acetate ions. So when the rate of dissociation of acetic acid is equal to the rate of combination of the hydrogen and acetate ions, it is a state of ionic equilibrium. So this is how we classify equilibrium into physical, chemical, and under physical I've given the example, under chemical I've given the example specifically over here. But most importantly, remember the formula, delta G is equal to delta H minus T delta S. The application of this formula I'll explain you very nicely in the chapter chemical thermodynamics. But for the moment, remember delta G, Gibbs free energy. It is the available energy which is used to do useful work. The energy which is available to do useful work, it is called Gibbs free energy. So for a system to be in equilibrium, the change in Gibbs free energy value has to be equal to 0. If the value of delta G it is less than 0, then the reaction is spontaneous. Otherwise, if it is greater than 0, the reaction does not happen at all. So I want you all to remember these points properly. Now, moving to the next slide, on the screen you can see there are some general characteristics of physical equilibrium which you can see on the screen over there, general characteristics. Okay, now here in the case of physical equilibrium, if you talk about the physical equilibrium, the properties, the measurable properties which can be measured, temperature, pressure, volume, yeah, all these become constant. There is no change. Physical equilibrium, it can be established only in a closed system. Very, very important point. We can experience physical equilibrium in a closed system, closed container. At equilibrium, the opposing forces become equal. Opposing forces means the force at which the reactants are reacting and the products are reacting. The equilibrium is dynamic in nature. Why it is dynamic? Because at equilibrium, the rate at which the products are forming is equal to the rate at which the reactants are reformed. That's why it is called dynamic in nature. That is, the reaction keeps on going, only the rate becomes constant. The reaction is happening, the rate is constant. At equilibrium, the concentration becomes constant. Even the concentration becomes constant. The magnitude of equilibrium value gives indication about the extent of reaction. So, whatever is the magnitude of the equilibrium value we get, it tells us about how far the reaction has reached. If it is a high value, then the reaction has gone quite far. Okay, so these are some general characteristics of physical equilibrium in this chapter. Now, moving to the next slide, I was talking about dynamic nature of equilibrium. Now, if you look at the screen very carefully over there, we know chemical equilibrium is a dynamic condition in which the concentration do not change and the rates of the forward and reverse reaction are equal. Meaning, the reactants are making products, that is true, at the same time, at the same rate, that products are making the reactants. In very simple language, this is quite important sentence over here. So, to correctly define the dynamic nature of equilibrium, you can say the reactants are making products at the same rate. That products are making the reactants. Okay, so the rate is same. The rate at which the products are formed is equal to the rate at which the reactants are reformed. Okay, so that's why you can call equilibrium to be dynamic in nature. Okay, now moving to the next slide, let us go in detail with regard to dynamic equilibrium. Now, over here, dynamic equilibrium, it is defined as the state of a given system in which the reversible reaction taking place in it stops, changing the ratio of the reactant and products. But there is a movement of substances between the reactants and the products. This movement occurs at an equal rate and there is no net change of the reactant and product ratio. The reactant and the product ratio, it is constant. Now, for this type of equilibria, the equilibrium constants are represented with the help of the rate constants for the forward and backward reactions. Systems maintaining a dynamic equilibrium are examples of systems in steady state. So remember, all chemical equilibria processes or physical equilibria processes are in a state of dynamic in nature. They are always dynamic in nature. Now, if there is dynamic, there has to be static as well. Now, here, difference between static and dynamic equilibrium can be discussed over here. Static equilibrium refers to a condition where the reaction occurring in a system is completely halted. It is stopped. It is not going on. It is not happening. And there exists no movement between the reactants and the products corresponding to the chemical reaction. That is the major difference over here between static and dynamic equilibrium. There is a halt. The reaction occurring in the system is halted. Okay. If the forces acting on an object cancel each other, in addition to the constancy of the content and composition, no movement of the object takes place. This is the condition where you can observe static equilibrium. Okay, so though this static equilibrium is not required in detail in this chapter, but still I have tried to explain you the meaning over here. Okay, now moving further, to the next slide, to the term which is called chemical equilibrium. Now, under chemical equilibrium, we will discuss about chemical changes happening. Here, if the opposing forces involve chemical changes only, the opposing forces are chemical reactions. The equilibrium, it is called chemical equilibrium. Okay, so opposing forces are what? Because of chemical reactions happening, chemical changes are taking place. Okay, and such a situation gives a result of chemical equilibrium. Now, reversible reaction, a reaction which takes place not only in forward direction but also in backward direction under the same conditions, it is called a reversible reaction. As well as, if you talk about irreversible reaction, a irreversible reaction which cannot take place in the reverse direction, that is, the products formed do not react to give back the same reactants, it is called an irreversible reaction. Example is given: burning of a magnesium wire, okay, in oxygen to be magnesium oxide. Okay, so here please make the idea clear within reversible and irreversible reaction. Now, coming to some important characteristics of chemical equilibrium on the next slide over here, please note that here also the rate of the forward reaction occurs at the same rate as the reverse reaction. Very important point. Concentration of reactants and products remain constant at equilibrium. Concentration is constant. That means if I write A plus B, it is giving C plus D, which means if the concentration of A is represented this way, concentration of B is this one, that means the concentration of the reactants will be equal to concentration of the products. Concentration of the products. That is how we represent concentration in square bracket. If I write over here potassium chloride within square bracket, means concentration of potassium chloride. Now, attainment of equilibrium is not immediate and often requires an extended period of time. It might take a lot of time for equilibrium to reach. Okay, so these are some important characteristics over here to be remembered. Further, the three characteristics of chemical equilibrium summarized over here. The reactants and products will have the same concentration at chemical equilibrium. At equilibrium, the reverse reaction rate proceeds at the same rate as the forward reaction. A catalyst, important one, will not affect the equilibrium. A catalyst will not affect the equilibrium. This has been a question. This has been a question in the competitive examination. Okay, they have given four options. Okay, a catalyst affects, does not affect. So you have to select the correct answer. So remember, this is one of the characteristics of chemical equilibrium, that a catalyst is not going to affect the equilibrium. It can only help the equilibrium to be attained faster, reach equilibrium faster, but it will not affect the equilibrium. Okay, now after that, let's discuss about a very, very important principle in this chapter, which is called Le-Chatelier principle. Le-Chatelier principle. Okay, now according to the Le-Chatelier principle definition, if there is a system at equilibrium and if it is disturbed, the equilibrium moves in the direction which tend to reduce the disturbance. As a result of that, it achieves a new equilibrium position. For example, if I take nitrogen gas and hydrogen gas from the Haber's process to produce ammonia gas. We know this is the Haber's process. I need to balance the equation. It is already balanced. Now, we know the temperature required for the Haber's process, it is somewhere 450 to 500. The catalyst required is iron catalyst, molybdenum is the promoter, and the pressure required is 200 to 900 atmospheric pressure. So at these conditions, nitrogen will combine with hydrogen to produce ammonia gas. Okay. But any temperature above 500, if the temperature rises above 500 degrees Celsius, then this ammonia gas is going to dissociate and give back the reactant gases, nitrogen and hydrogen. So that is a disturbance. If I do not provide temperature 450 degrees Celsius, if the temperature is below 450 degrees Celsius, then the nitrogen and hydrogen gases won't combine. If I don't provide this pressure, then these gases will not combine at all to produce ammonia gas. So that's why Whenever a system in equilibrium is disturbed, then the equilibrium moves in such a direction which tends to oppose the disturbance which was caused. So that is called Le-Chatelier's principle. That is called Le-Chatelier's principle that you have to keep in mind. Okay, now moving to the next slide, one example which I already told you. The preparation of ammonia by a process which is called Haber's process, where nitrogen gas, hydrogen gas combines to give ammonia gas, and it's an exothermic reaction. Okay, so here, according to the Le-Chatelier's principle, high concentration of nitrogen and hydrogen will favor the formation of ammonia. Low temperature means temperature between 450 to 500 will favor the formation of ammonia. High pressure, optimum temperature in the presence of catalyst favors the formation of ammonia. So if any one of these conditions is disturbed, then the formation of ammonia is also getting disturbed, which means the ammonia, whatever is formed, it dissociates in the backward direction to give back nitrogen and hydrogen gases. Okay, now one more example can be explained by using the Le-Chatelier's principle, where we apply this principle in the manufacture of sulfuric acid, that is H2SO4, by the contact process. Now, in the contact process, the reaction which is happening in the contact chamber, where sulfur dioxide gas and oxygen gases which are pure enough, they combine to give sulfur trioxide gas. Okay, and here, according to the Le-Chatelier's principle, predicts the yield of sulfur dioxide is maximized by maintaining the temperature low, high pressure. Okay, actual temperature used is 450 degrees Celsius. As low temperature reduces the rate, pressure used is 1 atmospheric pressure. So, according to the Le-Chatelier's principle, for the maximum yield of sulfur dioxide gas, you have to maintain the temperature low, pressure high. Then you will get a good yield of sulfuric acid at the end. Okay, now have a look at this slide on your screen. I'm going to draw a graphical representation over here. This is supposed to be the y-axis. This is the x-axis, y-axis. Okay. Now, it is a graph of rate of reaction versus time. Rate of reaction versus time. So, what happens when the reactants in the beginning, forward reaction curve goes like this. It goes like this. This is the rate of forward reaction. Rate of forward reaction. And then the backward reaction, this way. Okay. They meet over here. This is called rate of backward reaction. Now, the rate of forward reaction, the rate of backward reaction, they meet at a point and then a straight line is observed. When this straight line is observed, it means that it is a state of equilibrium. What equilibrium? Chemical equilibrium. Chemical equilibrium. Okay, so this is how we try to represent graphically chemical equilibrium. This can be defined as chemical equilibrium. It's a particular state of a reversible reaction in which the rate of the forward and the backward reactions are same, and the concentration of all the reactants and the products remain constant. That is how we define this forward and backward reaction. Okay, now moving to the next slide over here, some basic definitions before we move further in this chapter. Homogeneous reactions are those reactions which occur in only one phase. One phase means it can be gas reacting with gas to produce gas, or solid reacting with solid to produce solid, like that. One phase. These are homogeneous reactions. Heterogeneous reactions involving more than one phase. Reactions usually occur at or very near the interface between the phase. So that's an example of heterogeneous reactions. Different phases reaction happening. Irreversible reaction is one that proceeds in only one direction and continues in that direction until the reactants are exhausted. Reversible reaction can proceed in either direction depending on the concentration of the reactant and products relative to the corresponding equilibrium concentration. So these are some basic definitions I would like you all to keep in mind before I proceed further in this chapter. Okay, now if you look at the next slide, there has been a comparison between reversible reaction and irreversible reaction. Please go through this, okay, carefully. The first point is there. The second point, in the case of reversible, both forward and backward reaction take place simultaneously. But in irreversible, it is unidirectional. It proceeds in the forward direction only. Reversible reaction, it attains equilibrium after some time. But in irreversible reaction, equilibrium is never attained. In reversible reaction, the reactants cannot be converted completely into the products. But in irreversible reaction, reactants can be completely converted into the products and the reaction stops. And most importantly, reversible reaction relatively slow. They are very slow. Whereas irreversible reactions are quite fast. Okay, so with this, I would like to stop my class over here and then continue with the same class in the afternoon. Okay, so because it's already time, so just hold on because I will record your attendance. After it is recorded, then you may leave the class and join your next period over there. Okay. Aditya Roshan is absent today. Aditya Roshan?
No, sir.
Oh, you're there. Okay, very
Yes,
good.
sir.
So thank you so much. Let's meet in the afternoon. Okay, have a nice day.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.